Hello, good evening, and welcome back to the Bundesliga show. I hope everyone is doing well this evening. I hope you're not missing the Bundesliga too much as we enter the dreaded international break for feels like the fourth or fifth time already this season. Mark, how are you doing this evening? Looking forward to the show. You missing already kind of craving Bundesliga football?
Yeah, definitely. I never look forward to these international weeks. I can guarantee that. I think we have got an England v Germany next week, which makes it a little bit more exciting. But I just never really get that excited about internationals, really, apart from the big tournaments. Obviously they're exciting, and we are coming closer to the World Cup. But I'd much rather it was a full packed weekend of Bundesliga action to look forward to. But obviously we've got a different kind of show for you tonight, haven't we, Rory?
Yes, that we do indeed. So, introducing tonight's show, we're doing our second ever Bundesliga top 10. So, myself and Mark kind of count down our top 10 Bundesliga players or coaches or even teams from a certain category, from generally speaking, from the year 2000 onwards, roughly speaking. So, tonight's show is Bundesliga top 10 goalkeepers. Germany and indeed the Bundesliga have been blessed by a lot of great goalkeepers throughout the year, so it should be a really interesting show. This show, compared to the one that we did last time, we had a bit of a conversation, a bit of an open forum between myself and Mark, because we were able to do a little bit more research into it. Tonight, we've done it as a top 10 chosen already, so we'd be counting down from 10 to first, and our positions are already kind of set. But if you disagree with them, please do let us know in the comments. Which obviously very nicely kind of leads me on to saying if indeed you do, enjoy the show, or if, there's something that is really on your mind, please do like the show. Please do comment along, whether it's live or afterwards, whether you agree with our picks, or if you've got any questions in general about anything else. And please do make sure you jump on and subscribe to the channel. Press that big red button. Push us up to around 700. That'd be brilliant. Want to get up to that number at the very least very soon, and we can start to, really push on towards that big 1K mark if possible. And then the rest, who knows what will happen. But yeah, really appreciate everyone's support, and indeed through our partnerships as well with Bully News and with Bundesliga Boxes, two brilliant companies and websites that have been supporting us since last season. So thank you very much for your support. On with the show. So we'll be counting down from 10th down to first for goalkeepers in the Bundesliga since the year 2000, roughly speaking. Obviously we're going to go in reverse order. So we've got some honourable mentions as well, scrolling down. So unfortunately, those who are in the honourable mentions won't be in the top 10. But do let us know if you want, if you want one of those four in your top 10. Again, feel free to jump on and tell us. So on with the countdown, and starting with 10th place, we have Yann Sommer of Borussia Mönchengladbach, a goalkeeper who is doing a lot of fine work in the Bundesliga this season at the moment. Mark, I think we thought that Yann, deserved to just sneak inside this top 10. There's a lot of great goalkeepers who have got, at least a couple of accolades to their name in terms of trophies. But Yann, unfortunately, hasn't been able to win too much with Gladbach. So he sneaks in kind of based on, I guess, a bit of longevity and kind of just him in terms of how highly we rate him as a goalkeeper.
Yeah, definitely. I think obviously he has won one individual accolade, which is obviously Bundesliga Team of the Season 2019-2020. I think obviously, to be honest, the way he started in the first 7 games of this season, he won't be far off that again this season, because I mean, the performance against Bayern Munich that he put in a few weeks ago, for me, was one of the best performances I've ever seen from a keeper, I would say. He made something like 12 saves, and I'd say 6 of them were like world-class saves as well. Like, the guy was just unbelievable in that match. And, we're starting to see him back to his best after a couple of seasons, for me, where he probably wasn't at his very best. But this is a guy who's been plying his trade in the Bundesliga since 2014. He's racked up about 270 Bundesliga appearances. He's been number 1 for Gladbach pretty much during the whole of the 8 and a bit years that he's been at the club. As I say, probably for the first few years he was in the Bundesliga, he was widely seen as maybe, along with Manuel Neuer, the best keeper in the Bundesliga. But then, for me, he did have probably 2 years where he dropped that level a little bit. Especially last season, he didn't have his best. But You know, obviously under Daniel Farke, he's really come back to his best. You know, he's always been one that keeps clean sheets, especially by Bundesliga standards, you know, because, you know, we don't see that many clean sheets in the league, do we? And it's just a really, really good goalkeeper. Many pundits as well here in Germany do consider himself to be, you know, in the top 2 or 3 modern day keepers. Many people consider him to be like runner-up to obviously to Manuel Neuer as the best keeper currently plying the trade in the Bundesliga. But yeah, I would agree with you, Rory. The only reason why I didn't put him a little bit higher really is because he's not got that silverware, and he's not even been a runner-up in anything in his 8 years in the Bundesliga. So, you know, a little bit surprised he never got that big move, really, you know, to maybe a Dortmund or even a Bayern. But I guess Bayern I can understand it because they've always had Neuer during that time. But surprised a side like Dortmund haven't made a punt on Sommer, which maybe is part of the reason why he's not a little bit higher up in the list for me, really.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. I think he was linked. Pretty much every player was linked with Man United this summer, weren't they? But Sommer was indeed linked with United. In terms, I mean, he could well have done a job as a first-team Man United player, although I think he was linked as being the backup to De Gea, which I'm sure wouldn't have sat right with Sommer. One of a number of keepers who was linked with us at one stage. I think Sommer's certainly well worth his place inside that top 10 and sneaks inside. Just ahead of him, I think we were struggling with the kind of upper end of this top 10 a little bit. So in 9th place, we've gone for Rene Adler, Mark, obviously a goalkeeper who served for a great time by Leverkusen and then on to the likes of, and then spent a good amount of time with Hamburg as well. So both clubs he racked up well over 100 appearances and then had a very brief spell with Mainz. And again, I guess similar kind of level to Yann Sommer on this kind of trajectory of, a very good, great Bundesliga goalkeeper. Was the Bundesliga's best goalkeeper in 2008, but aside from that, his honours again are kind of few and far between.
Yeah, definitely. I would definitely say that he was pretty much Yann Sommer's predecessor in many ways. You know, a goalkeeper with a lot of respect here in Germany, Rene Adler. You know, obviously born in East Germany, but later on went to represent his country as well. 12 times, which is a decent number considering the number of good goalkeepers that Germany have had in the last 20 years or so. But yeah, it's just that lack of silverware, really. And the problem is he played for clubs that should have been challenging for silverware at that time. At least that's the problem. You know, Gladbach, despite being a big club, you know, we know that they are somewhat limited with the likes of Bayern, Dortmund, Leipzig in the league. But if you look at some of the clubs that Adler played for, you know, Bayer Leverkusen, when they had like their kind of glory period in the 2000 and noughties time, really. Then obviously Hamburg as well, who should always be challenging for, you know, top 4 cups. Although nowadays they're playing in this fighter, aren't they? So they'd probably be happy to be where they were when Rene Adler was playing. In terms of his goalkeeper, you know, he was a great shot stopper. He was highly respected within Germany. You know, his distribution was solid, but the problem is he just didn't get that trophy, did he? And as you say, Rory, he also got goalkeeper of the season 2008, so he's almost like parallel, really, to Yann Sommer in many ways. Very, very well-respected goalkeeper, but also named goalkeeper of the year once, but just doesn't have that silverware to push him a little bit further up the list for me. And for me, the silverware is something that I like to see in the top goalkeepers, really.
Yeah, completely agree. Which is something that our goalkeeper in 8th place does indeed have. So moving on. So we've got Diego Benaglio in 8th place, Mark. So someone who obviously sneaks ahead of Sommer and Adler in terms of what the goalkeeper has won on a personal accolades and with their team, indeed, because Benaglio was obviously a Bundesliga winner at the very least.
Yeah, he's a bit of a kind of cult hero god, really, Diego Benaglio. You know, that part of that Wolfsburg side who famously won the league in 2008 or 9. That year, he was the starting goalkeeper as well. He made 31 starts in that season. So obviously, clearly, nobody can claim he was just a backup goalkeeper in that famous season, the best season in the history of VfL Wolfsburg. He was a starting keeper. You know, he actually had really good longevity as well. After signing from Nacional in Uruguay, actually, he you know, he was the starting goalkeeper for about 10 years, actually. There were a couple of seasons where he was like challenged a little bit and had a couple of injuries, but he had really, really good longevity. Made around, again, similar to Yann Sommer in terms of appearances, actually. He made about 265 Bundesliga appearances. So yeah, it's just he's one of those kind of guys, isn't he? Who just made a lot of appearances. He won the league, but for me, that's why he comes a little bit higher as well. You know, he played Champions League. He was a great shot stopper that year. Not absolute top draw shot stopper, because Wolfsburg were more of a side that scored goals rather than kept clean sheets. But at the end of the day, you've got to remember a goalkeeper is more than just clean sheets and shot stopping. It's like a goalkeeper has to lead his team from the back. He has to marshal his defence, and you know, clearly, if you're winning the Bundesliga with a team as unfancied as Wolfsburg, then you know you must be pretty damn good. And that's for me why Diego Benaglio is definitely quite, you know, eighth in the top 8 goalkeepers in the 2000s for me. And you know, some people might even say he deserves to go a little bit higher. It'd be interesting to see what some of you guys as well watching think about that, whether he deserves to be a few places higher. But yeah, the Swiss international as well made 61 caps for Switzerland, and was generally seen as like a really, really good goalkeeper. He also won a Pokal as well, which I didn't mention. He won a Pokal with Wolfsburg in 2015. So showing that kind of longevity, 6 years between his kind of major tournament wins. But yeah, definitely for me, a top 10 goalkeeper in the Bundesliga since 2000.
And he even, well, I say he played for the VfB Stuttgart, which gets him bonus points to me. He played in the second team an awful lot. I don't think he actually made a first team appearance, although he was on the books there. Before, as you mentioned, he moved to Nacional before his Wolfsburg move. And yeah, I mean, a great Bundesliga goalkeeper, as you say, the longevity, brilliant. Obviously won himself a couple of things with that great Wolfsburg side. So yeah, really kind of outstanding time in the Bundesliga. I always remembered him a lot with his Switzerland appearances. I know we're doing a Bundesliga show, but someone who always stood out to me at kind of international tournaments, I think. So certainly well worth his place inside of our top 10, and he comes in nice rounded off 8th place. So moving on in the countdown, we're going to go in 7th place here, and we've got Frank Rost. So yeah, Mark, another goalkeeper who quite happily fits inside of our top 10. Again, maybe one that's in the Sommer category of maybe not winning enough or too much, but he was certainly more of a bridesmaid. At least he got close an awful lot. He's the runner-up in the Bundesliga twice, DFB Pokal runner-up twice. He did win a couple of trophies as well, the DFB Cup, whilst at Bremen. But a goalkeeper who notched up over 100 appearances for Werder Bremen, Schalke, and Hamburg over those, 3 huge teams in Germany. With 121 clean sheets, that was over 426 games. And he's 9th on the all-time list of Bundesliga clean sheets as well. So, I mean, I'm reading off quite a lot of stats there. So he's certainly well worth a top 10 spot for me, and might be closer to maybe the 10th or 9th area. But a great keeper nonetheless.
Yeah, definitely. I think he's another goalkeeper that hailed from East Germany as well. Incredible. There's a lot of goalkeepers on our list who were actually born in, obviously, the east part of Germany before the reunification in 1991. Yeah, also born in Karl-Marx-Stadt as well, a place where I've been to. It's nowadays known as Chemnitz, but what a place that is. Yeah, he goes up a few places. I actually went there once. An interesting place. But yeah, I mean, as you said, Rory, before, if you make well over almost close to 150 apps for Werder, Schalke, and Hamburg, I mean, you have to be on the list at the end of the day, because these are 3 of the big 5 German clubs. He was only missing out, really, Dortmund and Bayern Munich out of the top 5 kind of powerhouses of German football, basically, for me. So, yeah, definitely a goalkeeper. Very, very well respected. I'd say he was in the top 10 goalkeepers in Bundesliga history as well, not just since 2000 for clean sheets. Yeah, very well respected. Again, represented Germany as well. Got 4 caps between 2002 and 2003. So, again, at a time when Germany had really a lot of very, very good goalkeepers at that time, some of them that we're going to actually mention a little bit further on in the show. But yeah, definitely a goalkeeper that deserves his place on the list. But again, just the fact that he didn't get the silverware, did he? And I like your expression there, Rory, calling him a bridesmaid. But yeah, he definitely was. Really, it's a good expression. He was the king of the second place, basically. You know, as you say, runner-up in the Bundesliga in the '90s, so we can't really count that in our thing. He also got 3 runners-up in the. He did win a couple of Pokals, to be fair, in the '90s, but in the 2000s, you know, Bundesliga runner-up in 2005 with Schalke. DFB Pokal runner-up in the same year for Schalke. It's just, you know, but he did win a couple of Emirates Cups with Hamburg, so I'll give him that.
Oh, yes.
Probably the most tin pot trophy in the history of football. But yeah, he did win a couple of them, and he didn't finish second in them. But yeah, very, very good goalkeeper, but for me, doesn't justify a top 5 place.
No, indeed. So the rest of our kind of 10th to 6th place kind of countdown will now end with a bit of a legend, I guess, in the shape of Hans-Jörg Butt. So yeah, goalkeeper who spent a lot of his time with Bayer Leverkusen, almost 200 appearances for them in the early 2000s. Also. Spent a lot of time with Hamburg and eventually Bayern Munich. So obviously we're kind of looking at goalkeepers for how they keep the balls out of the net and you know what they won. You know, he was a Champions League runner-up in the early 2000s, as well as a Pokal runner-up. But when he went to Munich towards the latter end of his career, he did win a Bundesliga, a Pokal, a Super Cup, and was runner-up in the Champions League a couple of times. So certainly some brilliant credentials. But Mark, I think a lot of people know this name across the world, I guess, European football, because of he was a bit of a goal scorer as well.
He really was, yeah. He's the definition of a cult hero, really, this guy. You know, like literally everybody that was a football fan in the late 90s and early 2000s remembers his name, Hans-Jörg Butt, I think, yeah. Because the guy, like, that was a time when goalkeeping was a different skill, you know, and goalkeepers did come up for free kicks and penalties at that time. And that's exactly what Hans-Jörg Butt was, you know. He was an absolute penalty god. He used to come up on a very regular basis, getting 19 Bundesliga goals for Hamburg, 7 for Bayer Leverkusen. He didn't actually get any for Bayern, so maybe that's why Bayern actually won the league. Maybe, you know, because he didn't have a keeper taking penalties at that time.
Possibly.
But yeah, but yeah, he was definitely, you know, he was Champions League runner-up as well, like with that famous Leverkusen side who almost shocked the world really before finally coming. They beat United and Liverpool that year as well, famously. I remember, and I remember I was supporting them against Real Madrid in the final, but they just came unstuck to that famous. He was actually in goal as well when Zidane hit that wonder goal as well to win the Champions League that year in 2001, which is still seen, I think, as the best goal in Champions League history. So, you know, he was beaten by a pretty good strike. As you say, he won a Bundesliga in the end, and he was a starting goalkeeper as well for Bayern Munich. He wasn't starting goalkeeper during all his time in Munich, but that particular season was his best season in terms of appearances as well as Bayern winning the league. So there you go. You know, it's and as you say, he was Champions League runner-up as well with Bayern in 2009-10 when he was starting goalkeeper as well. So technically, he got 2 runners up 10 years apart, which is pretty incredible, really. So, you know, very, very cultured goalkeeper, for me, a legend. And, you know, some people might even consider he should come a little bit higher up. But I mean, for me, you know, he was a good goalkeeper, but his shot stopping wasn't probably as good as some of the other guys that are going to come a bit further up the list for me.
Yes, indeed, but yeah, absolutely well worth his place inside of that top 10, and in 6th place, a very nice finish for him. So next into the top 5, really counting down now, getting close to the big number 1 spot. So in 5th place, this possibly more controversial one, with Andreas Reinke coming in as our 5th place pick. We, you know, if we had the power to, we might kind of amend that slightly tonight, but we've locked him in for now anyway. A goalkeeper who did a lot of this work, well, across the decades, I guess. Had a lot of kind of work with Hamburg, but in the second team, mainly in the early 1990s, and a great deal of his Bundesliga life was spent with Kaiserslautern and later on with Werder Bremen, well over 150 appearances for Kaiserslautern and nearly 100 for Werder Bremen. So again, some great numbers really being picked out there. And he won himself 2 Bundesliga titles, 1 with each club. A couple of Pokals with Werder as well, in a really good team. But yeah, I guess some of his best work was perhaps done post the year 2000, which might make it slightly more controversial, I guess, Mark. But nevertheless, the numbers do add up for him.
Yeah, I think he's, again, another guy hailing from East Germany, actually, incredibly. Like, really, a lot of them are. But I think it's, definitely. I think he's done really well to kind of get in there. But I think, it was a tough one. When I was researching this, it was quite tough, really, It was because, obviously, as you mentioned, his most famous ever season was that year with Kaiserslautern. When Kaiserslautern won the league in 1998, that was basically, the German people say that was the Bundesliga's Leicester, basically, and he was the starting goalkeeper for Kaiserslautern that year. And this was just an incredible thing. But then for some reason, he ended up going to play in Greece for a year, which seems a little bit random for a club that I've never even heard of. And then he went to Real Murcia, who aren't exactly powerhouses of Spanish football, let's be honest, before returning back to Werder and at the age of 34 and winning the Bundesliga and the Cup in his first season as starting goalkeeper. So the guy is quite... And when I was researching him for this show, I was just taken aback by the guy, to be honest. And that's why I put him so high in the list, because, a guy who's won 2 Bundesligas, both of them completely against all odds. Like, nobody thought that either Kaiserslautern in 98 or Werder in 2004 would have any chance of winning the Bundesliga, but they did. He also got a cup to his name as well. And I mean, what a career the guy had, He traveled the world. He won 2 Bundesligas. What's not to love, basically? So, yeah, that's for me why he had to be up there. I think, obviously, his international career didn't actually kick off. He was never capped by Germany, which is something maybe that you can hold against him. But, I've always been a fan of these cult hero kind of footballers. And for me, he's another one of them, really. He's got to go down as a kind of cult hero, really, for old school Bundesliga fans. So, yeah, definitely a good goalkeeper and incredibly good career, too.
Yeah, absolutely. Just picking up a comment in the chat from Ballum, referring to where Neuer might come. He could well come in the top 4. You'll have to wait and see. But also asking whether Mark is happy to speak a bit of German, a sentence or 2 for the viewers. I don't know. Obviously, I know you're not too shabby, Mark. What about introducing our next goalkeeper in 4th place as a bit of German, perhaps, if you've got it in you?
Oh, geez, yeah. So it's who we got next then? It's
Jens Lehmann.
Okay, so the next is the Jens Lehmann. What else can I say, really? The next is the next, and Jens Lehmann, basically. But I'll definitely, if you want me to start putting a bit more German into the shows, then I can do that for you guys. But yeah, just let me know if you want to get a little bit more on that. But it's
what about something along the lines of he was a top shot stopper or a good goalkeeper? What would that be on the lines of a German translation?
War eine gute Spieler für Arsenal und die deutsche Mannschaft und
very
something
nice.
like that.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
Just
How's your German coming along, by the way, Rory? You said you were going to start doing a bit of German.
I just haven't started. It's terrible.
Oh, come on. We got to get some German into the show again.
No, it's seriously on my list of things to do. When I find some spare time, I will start doing it. I will.
Yeah. By the way, Ballum, do you speak any German as well? You have to.
Yeah, let us know. Oh, yeah, but well, yeah, there you go. Thanks, Mark. Danke.
Yeah, kein Problem.
So, yes, Jens Lehmann, anyway, 4th place for him. Very good goalkeeper, animated at times. So obviously, probably not. Well, I mean, he's high up enough, but maybe he would have been higher if he'd spent some of his prime or the prime of his career that obviously was over in England with Arsenal. And obviously, we're doing a Bundesliga show, so it kind of counts against him slightly. But one of the rare players and indeed goalkeepers that represented Schalke and Borussia Dortmund. So that's little bit contentious in itself, and a brief spell with my boys VfB Stuttgart. 131 clean sheets overall, which is 7th on the all-time list, I believe, and just shy of 400 Bundesliga appearances. So his percentage of clean sheets was over 33%, so not too bad at all. So I won in 3 games. I guess Mark, kind of a bit of a long-standing rival for Oliver Kahn at a time, obviously, and kind of mainly in the build-up to the 2006 World Cup on home soil. Certainly won a good amount of trophies, obviously in England, but also in Germany. He won plenty from a personal point of view. The Kicker Bundesliga team of the season in 95-96, the UEFA goalkeeper of the year in 97 and 2006, and the UEFA Club Football Awards best goalkeeper 2005-06, but that might have fallen in the time when he was playing with Arsenal. A brilliant goalkeeper in every aspect, Mark.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, another cult hero, really. I've said that quite a lot today, but another one from that period, like late 90s. Well, I would say really all the way through the 90s, wasn't he? And then obviously 2000s as well. But yeah, I think really, really good goalkeeper. As you say, a lot of people don't know he actually played for Schalke for most of his career. That's where he made most of his career appearances for Schalke. He even got a couple of goals as well. Like these German keepers, they do like a goal or two, don't they? And he got a couple of Bundesliga goals as well in the 90s. So yeah, made his name there. He actually had a couple of years in Milan as well, but that clearly didn't work out before he came back to Germany and played for Dortmund, leading into the 2000s. And what was a strong Dortmund team at that time as well, before getting probably what I would say was his most famous move of his career to Arsenal, really, wasn't it? But I mean, the guy was just a brilliant goalkeeper. He was obviously the invincible goalkeeper for Arsenal too, probably one of the greatest goalkeepers of all time, really, in Germany. I would go that far because, what he won, if you think about it, it was just absolutely incredible. Didn't lose a game in, was it 2003-04 for Arsenal? I know that's not Bundesliga related, but still. Then obviously he even came back at the age of I think he was probably 40 odd at that point. And he even came back to Stuttgart, to your boy Stuttgart, Rory, and was number 1 goalkeeper for 2 years as well, which just proves his longevity was just absolutely incredible, basically. And it's fantastic goalkeeper, great character. Again, another thing I used to love about Jens Lehmann was how he used to basically man his team. He used to man that team absolutely brilliantly well. And he was just a fantastic goalkeeper. He had his defense organized and just had such a great character. And for me, he could even be third, but I think the fact that he didn't play all his career in the Bundesliga, especially in the 2000s, is probably why he's finished 4th, really.
Yeah, he had a great demeanor about him, brilliantly agile, great reflexes. He was a strong man. And he had quite a spectacular kind of all-round game, because I think he was also quite well renowned for being a good distributor of the ball. Probably an early part of kind of what you see nowadays of, sweeper keepers, or not maybe a sweeper, but he used his feet a lot more than keepers back in those days. And was really good at commanding his penalty area as well, really strong in that regard. And as you mentioned, did get himself a couple of Bundesliga goals, and a famous one at that, scoring an injury time equaliser for Schalke against Dortmund in 1998 in the Revier Derby. So, and the fact that he played for both clubs, that's some serious kind of balls on him doing both. Very impressive indeed. Just conscious of time, so we'll move straight on to 3rd place. So 3rd place, Roman Weidenfeller, or Weidenfeller, if I'm getting my pronunciations a bit better there, Mark. Another great servant to Borussia Dortmund, although he did start off with Kaiserslautern, although I think he made 10 appearances roughly, and 350 off for Dortmund. Two Bundesligas, 2 Pokals, a Super Cup, part of that runners-up team in the UEFA Champions League. A fantastic shot stopper in that as well. I think he was also back up to Jens Lehmann for a little while, but then got promoted once Lehmann left for Arsenal. And his time came, really, and he was rewarded brilliantly. Made some famous interventions for Dortmund during during the time where they were doing really well. One particular example is when he saved a really late penalty, I think, from Arjen Robben or someone like that against Bayern to help Dortmund win and eventually obviously go on to win the league title. So, had his fair share in some really big pieces of Bundesliga and Borussia Dortmund history, Mark. So, yeah, definitely worth a top 3 spot for Weidenfeller.
Yeah, I mean, for me, he is the best goalkeeper that didn't play for Bayern Munich. I mean, the guy, he was the one keeper that was really able to, to rustle up Bayern Munich's feathers, wasn't he, in that famous run between 2010 and 2012, when Dortmund famously won 2 titles back-to-back. It was the famous Klopp team. And for me, guys like Roman Weidenfeller kind of typified that team, basically. He was that good. I mean, I absolutely loved him as a keeper as well. He was one of my favourite keepers at that time. He also had the longevity too, as you say. His longevity was ridiculous. He was Dortmund's #1 goalkeeper for about 10 years, roughly, even a little bit more than 10 years. Taking him all the way through that title-winning team, couple of Pokals, as you mentioned, and also Champions League runner-up, all as starting goalkeeper. And to be honest, it's no surprise to me that since he retired, actually, because he did retire at Dortmund, before he became a bit part player, basically after 2015, for me, it's not a surprise that that's when Dortmund started to go downhill a little bit. I mean, when you're replacing Roman Weidenfeller with his namesake, Roman Bürki, then why they stopped winning titles, basically. With all due respect to Bürki, he was a decent keeper, but he's not Weidenfeller level, and Weidenfeller, he was another massive character, and he was a bit more. He had that Dortmund feeling to him, though. He was a very happy, chilled guy, kind of cool guy. Very much in the kind of Jurgen Klopp role. Lehmann was a lot harder, wasn't he? He was a very serious and hard kind of guy, but great character too. He was actually part of the World Cup winning squad in 2014, despite not playing a game. But I wouldn't be surprised if his character was, definitely helped Germany along their victorious path in Brazil in 2014.
Yeah, definitely. And just quickly we're staying on the topic of goalkeepers, obviously, but Ballam's just asked a question, and it's just nice to make sure that we're answering questions as we go along regardless. And as it's linked, I think we just quickly have a look at it, Mark, in regards to looking at maybe the three goalkeepers who do go to the World Cup, as it's on the horizon, if I can get my words out. Neuer, ter Stegen, Trapp, Hoffenheim goalkeeper being Baumann, Leno. Obviously a lot of goalkeepers will have to miss out. Very quick opinions on that, Mark. Do you think Neuer and Trapp perhaps are not definite, but because Trapp's maybe dropped down a little bit. So ter Stegen and Neuer probably both go, and then one out of Trapp, Baumann, Leno, something like that.
I think Bauman's Austrian, though, isn't he? Bauman's Austrian. I think he is, isn't he? Maybe I'm mistaken. Yeah, we might have to check that one. Yeah, Baumann. But yeah, I think ter Stegen and Neuer. I mean, for me, Neuer is pretty much a shoe-in as starting goalkeeper until he retires, really, because it's just Neuer, basically. Do you know what I mean? And it's I don't see him going out of the starting. I also think ter Stegen, I think he's not the best goalkeeper I've ever known in my life, but he is a good. No, actually, Baumann is German. Actually, you were right. Actually, Baumann. Yeah, sorry, my mistake. Yeah. I'm thinking of Bachmann. Yeah, he's the guy that is Austrian. But yeah, I think the third choice is anybody's guess. I'll probably say Trapp is the first choice at the moment because obviously he's got that Europa League win under his belt, which is a big feather in his cap, really. I think Baumann's had a good start to the season, but he's never really been around the kind of scene, has he, for Germany? And I don't see him all of a sudden getting called up now. I think Leno's ship sailed, to be honest with you. I don't see him getting picked because I think he's gone to Fulham now, hasn't he? I think he left Arsenal after a couple of years on the bench, and I don't know. They do rate him here in Germany. They do really like Bernd Leno, but I don't know. I never really feel as though I've seen the best of him in the Premier League. I don't know. I never really rated him that much for Arsenal, but yeah, I would imagine it'll be those three: Neuer, ter Stegen, and Trapp. That's where my money would be at the minute.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with you on that one. But yeah, very interesting question, Ballum, and it's something we'll be quite prominently on our minds as the weeks go on towards the World Cup, and certainly how well the likes of Neuer, Trapp, and Baumann are all playing, certainly in the Bundesliga. So thank you for that. And so yeah, let's finish off our countdown then, and try and get ourselves rounded off in the next 5 minutes or so. So in second place, obviously the kind of the big decision that we had to make. And so in second place, we have gone for Oliver Kahn. Der Titan, I think, was one of his many nicknames. An absolute man mountain of a player, of a goalkeeper. And obviously everyone knows him for obviously his appearances and his time at Bayern Munich. But he did spend a good amount of time actually at Karlsruhe with 128 appearances actually, but then obviously went on to make 429 for Bayern with over 200 Bundesliga clean sheets, which obviously is the second of all time behind a certain someone who we won't mention just yet. Good percentage of clean sheets, 36.6, so over one in every 3 games. Mark, just, an absolute legend of the game and just a legend of the keeper.
Yeah, again, another eccentric character. It seems to be goalkeepers at that time were like very eccentric, basically, weren't they? Although he does seem to have mellowed a bit, as Ballum said. He has become the CEO, sporting director of Bayern as well, which I think as a player, nobody would have expected he would have really gone into that kind of role, really, because he seemed like too eccentric for that kind of thing, really. But no, he, obviously what he won as well, the titles. I mean, he did win 2 Bundesliga titles before the 2000s with Bayern, but he did also win 5 of them in the 2000s as well. So 6 of them in the 2000s. So he didn't exactly do badly. And that was a time when Bayern weren't considered to have one of the best ever teams. Although in the early time of its period, they did, because they won the Champions League in 2000 as well. So yeah, I mean, he was a Champions League winner, a 7-8-time Bundesliga winner. 86 caps for Germany. He was, as you say, he managed to keep Jens Lehmann out of the team for years. Really, he reduced his number of caps, and that's saying a lot for a goalkeeper as good as Jens Lehmann. These were 2 keepers that their careers basically overlapped, didn't they? Basically, they were playing at the same time. Pretty much, they started and finished at the same time. But for me, Kahn, the fact that he won so many titles, and also the fact that he did play in the Bundesliga for his entire career, is the reason why he's ahead of Lehmann. I think in terms of raw ability, they were quite similar in some ways, although they did have different strengths. Kahn was just a brilliant shot stopper. Like, his shot stopping was absolutely unbelievable, and it's just how eccentric he was. I remember that big mop of Boris Johnson style blonde hair, and like when they scored, he used to go absolutely crazy on in front of the fans, and it was just, when I was like watching Bayern Munich in the Champions League in like the early 2000s, late 90s, he was the guy I was looking for, Oliver Kahn, and he was just an absolutely massive character, and everybody knew him. I think they even called him Shere Khan at one point, after the guy from the Jungle Book, didn't they? Mm-hmm. So he had a lot of nicknames, but that just proves what a kind of character he was, really.
Yeah, so obviously a clear leader and a motivator, really, from a young age, even at Karlsruhe. All the accolades you can put, you can almost summarize it really well by one of them, because he was a multiple Ballon d'Or top 3 finisher. He was third in 2001 and 2. I mean, and how often do you see goalkeepers in the Ballon? Obviously, it's been renamed now to whatever it is, the FIFA World Best Player. But yeah, I think that's a fair summary of how good Oliver Kahn was. And yeah, an absolute legend. So yeah, it rounds us off. And we're going to finish off with our first place. And I'm sure many of you will be able to guess it. It is indeed the current captain of Bayern Munich and club legend and German goalkeeper Manuel Neuer. Just a serial winner, Mark. Top of all the stats you can kind of come up with. And again, made his grounding again at another club, which a lot of people might not know. So he spent over 150 appearances with Schalke, making his name really before switching over to Bayern, where he's now got over 300 appearances. has now overtaken Kahn in terms of the most clean sheets in Bundesliga history. His clean sheet percentage is 46%, so almost averaging a clean sheet every other game, which is just ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, there's so much to kind of get through. It's almost blinding, really. 10 league titles with Bayern, 6 Pokals, including 1 with Schalke, 7 DFB Super Cups, 2 Champions Leagues, a UEFA Super Cup, a Club World Cup twice. On a personal level, 7 times he's been in the Bundesliga team of the season, the FIFA best men's goalkeeper in 2020. I mean, I could keep going basically for a long time. Even a Bavarian Merit of Honor mark, like the guy is worshipped, and and rightly so. He's a brilliant goalkeeper.
Yeah, I think most people think Manuel Neuer is like as Bavarian as he come, but he's actually from North Rhine-Westphalia originally.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people, which is quite ironic because in Germany they're considered to be like the opposite in terms of the culture. Like Bavarians are very serious and stern. Like most people think like Neuer is like the prototype of a Bavarian, but he's not actually. He's a North Rhine-Westphalian.
Yeah.
And but it doesn't matter basically because the guy is just an absolute legend, isn't he? I mean, let's be honest, it was quite predictable really who was going to be number one because there's not one statistic that we could find that basically argued that, a bit like the last one we did with the striker with Lewandowski, there's nothing we could argue that wasn't him. And the same with Neuer, 10 Bundesliga titles, the most clean sheets, the most appearances in the Bundesliga in the 2000s. He's top on absolutely everything. World Cup winner, Champions League winner. He's made his own style of goalkeeping with the sweeper keeper, although increasingly in his later years, he has made errors with that, I've got to say, probably to do with him losing a little bit of pace as he gets into his later 30s nowadays. But, when he was in his absolute prime, probably around about 2014, 15, for me, he was the best goalkeeper in the world, hands down. I think he's still a world-class goalkeeper, but he's probably, for me, a little bit down his peak. Perhaps a little tiny bit, but like he doesn't keep as many clean sheets now. I think last season he got like his lowest number actually he's ever got in the 12 seasons he's played at Bayern. So basically it's absolutely incredible. As Balam said, that's a great comment as well. Since Manuel arrived, nobody's won the Bundesliga. That is some stat. He just has basically every single stat under his belt, and there's nobody that can argue that he's not the best goalkeeper possibly ever, really. But although Sepp Maier definitely have something to say about that. It's quite funny, really, because like Lewandowski is very similar to Gerd Müller, and Neuer is very similar to Sepp Maier, who is like considered the 2 best strikers and goalkeepers. But they were both around the same era as well, which is quite incredible. But absolutely brilliant goalkeeper, and fully deserves to win our accolade as the best goalkeeper, I think.
Indeed, it does. I think we've probably done a longer goalkeeper show than we did strikers, amazingly enough, last month. So we'll round things up now. Balam just saying Lehmann would be the best right back or centre mid in the Bundesliga list. Well, for another show, Balam, it'll have to be for another show that. But I suspect the brilliant Philippe Lahm will be somewhere roundabouts on that list. But thank you very much for everyone that's watched this evening and tuned in. I hope you enjoyed our show. Please do let us know any feedback or comments if you watched it subsequently. That'd be brilliant. Please do make sure that you smash a like on the show. I really like to get feedback and make sure that people are enjoying our content. And of course, please do subscribe to the show to make sure that you don't miss out on anything that we've got. Hope you will survive the international break. And over to you, Mark, to close up tonight's show.
Yeah, definitely. So just a quick one. So if you enjoyed what you saw today, then remember to check out our Over the Bar FB Twitter and Over the Bar Extra. Remember also check out our main page, which is otbfootball.net. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. And as you say, we'll be back with more shows for you guys. And also don't forget the the Football League show as well, which should be coming sometime later on this week. So thanks again for joining us. And see you next time. Auf Wiedersehen. Tschüss.